People see the races and the medals, but what they don't see is the lifestyle.
Brock likes to really stress me out. He forgot his tracker that goes on his ankle.
Watching the training and the discipline not only shapes him, but our whole family.
In the last year, I ran a 10:30 Ironman. I've done 29 hours on the Hurt 100. I ran a 105 High Rocks. A 60 miler. And a 2:48 marathon. The last man standing, cherry on top, 85 miles. And honestly, the hardest days of my life were not on those races. It was here in the home. But the races and the training have taught me how to show up for my family, even when I'm tired, stressed, and burnt out. The lessons learned out there are what I'm able to bring back here. There was a time when I would go out and I would try to solve the problems of the world. I would put all my energy and all my effort into everything that was going on outside of me, whether that be the races, whether that be my training. And what would happen is often I'd come home and not have enough to give to those I loved the most. And they were getting my scraps. And that was something that really bothered me because it really started to distort the world that I was living in and how I was able to experience it. I learned how to break through this wall, not in a classroom or in a book, but through racing, by going out and putting myself to the challenge and putting stress willingly onto my body. And that's where I started to really learn who I was, what I was capable of, and how I can show up for my family, even on the hardest days. So what I want to do is take you through the races that I've done over the last year and the lessons that have shaped me, that have built resilience to where I can show up for my family the way that I want to.
It is difficult. You're at home a lot with kids. I know a couple other moms, their husbands do the same things. They train a lot. It's a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of money. I think that in the beginning, I had a really difficult time. I wasn't secure with myself. I had a lot of insecurities and I depended on Brock to make me feel better. And it was hard in the beginning when he was training, going up mountains and he wasn't around and I just had my own thoughts and I had nothing but time to spiral, to tell stories to myself, create assumptions, and it caused a lot of issues with myself and in our relationship, and it was really difficult. Over time, I think having a clear mission and a clear why on why you and your family are doing this, because it's not just them training, it's not just about them. They can't do it without the wives and the moms supporting them. It's just not possible. I'm grateful that Brock is fully aware of that and he's really respectful about it. I know a ton of women that struggle with having their husbands gone a lot. That was me in the beginning. I think now I have a lot of security in myself. I'm confident in my ability to problem solve, to manage stress, to handle a good workload, and to be confident in my ability to be a mom and to be present there, to maintain the house, run errands, restock the fridge and the pantry. I've grown to be pretty confident in myself to handle things. And I think that's shown with Brock's training too. I'm always very grateful when he walks back in the door and he's healthy and happy and he always gives me good energy. And I'm so grateful for that. And he gets that from me in return. I think for women, it's important to take care of yourself and to get you to a place where you are secure with yourself, confident in your ability to handle what life throws at you, to handle your kids, to handle your workload, whatever you're doing. I think it shows in their training and also within yourself.
So let's backtrack 1 year. Okay, I signed up for the Ironman. Now, for those of you that know, Ironman is the most expensive race out there. And at the time, me and my wife were at our lowest point, making the least amount of money. It was so difficult for us to even get by and have enough food to put on the table for us and our newborn son. We were only making about $2,000 a month, and the race itself was going to cost us $15,000, and we had 6 months to prepare. If you're doing the math there, you can see that the math is not mathing. And we were in a tricky spot. But one thing that I believed was that it was all going to be okay. And so I woke up every single morning, I put myself in the pool, I got on the bike, and I started on a stationary bike in a gym. I didn't even own the bike at that point, and I would run the miles. I started showing up day in and day out, putting in the work. And that belief, as I started to really put myself out there, started to build, and I was able to show up on race day. not only was I able to show up on race day, but I was able to perform at a high level. I was able to have a coach the entire time, and I was able to have gear that was pro level. It was incredible how everything worked out. And the lesson that I learned from all of this is that the belief is more powerful than the circumstance. A lot of times when we start to make decisions or when we set goals, we often think that the reality is just what we have available to us right now. But that when I started to believe in myself and put myself out there to where I thought that this could be a reality, all of a sudden it became true. And me and my wife were able to have an amazing experience, and we really started to grow closer during this moment because we started to understand just how capable we were. And that capability then helped me come back to the family and be able to show up in a way I never have. Because I didn't have to rely on the last fight that we had or the last hardship that we were in. I could rely on what we were building and what we were creating and the goals that we had and the life that we were creating. And that's what mattered most. And when I really started to focus there, I was able to see the best in her, the best in my son, and the best in myself. And as I started to see that, that's when everything started to pivot and change. And that's what started this waterfall event of everything that happened over the next year. So now as I completed this Ironman, I started to have this burst of energy. And honestly, it was sad for it to be over. I went into this, what we call post-race blues, and you get a little bit of depressed after. And I wasn't showing up the way I wanted to. I was sad, I was irritable, and that came off on my family. And it was because I wanted something, a bone to chew on, something to get me stimulated again, because that Ironman had so much time and effort built up into it, and then all of a sudden it was gone. So 4 days after the race, I'm sitting in my office and I get an email from the Hurt 100. In the middle of the year, the Hurt 100 is typically a pretty tough race to get into. They have a wait list. And I started to just sign up so that way maybe here in a few years I could go run it. They got back to me 2.5 months before the race starts. The race is in January, saying, "Hey Brock, you have been selected to come and run the Hurt 100. Immediately I call Kelsey and I say, "Hey Kels, I have this wild idea. We're going to go to Hawaii and I'm going to run the Hurt 100 and you're going to pace me." And immediately Kelsey, wasn't training. She was doing CrossFit at the time. So endurance sports was a little bit of a foreign language at that moment for her. And I knew she was capable. I knew she was strong, and I knew there were challenges that we could face and things that we could create. Something I often think about is there's something that's called post-traumatic growth, which is when hard times come to you that cause trauma, and then a few years later, we learn from them. But then there's what's called post-ecstatic growth, which is willingly and deliberately creating hard times in your life to where you can learn the lesson because you deliberately put yourself there. And you get the same outcome, whether it's post-traumatic or post-ecstatic. The only difference is you eliminate the trauma. You don't have to go through trauma in order to learn the lesson. You can willingly put yourself there to grow and to have that come. And that was a moment that I wanted that post-ecstatic growth. I wanted to become someone new. And I wanted my wife to come along with me. Took a little bit of convincing, but by the end of it, she said she was in and training started. So the Hurt 100 is composed of 5,000 feet elevation, 20-mile loops. Okay, so I was going to have to run this loop 5 times with 5,000 feet of elevation through brutal terrain. The routes were insane. They would eat up your ankles, and it was steep up and steep down the whole way. Now, this is something Kelsey had never experienced before. And so we were training here in Utah, which is in the winter, and it's really hard to find a mountain that you can climb that's steep enough that won't have an avalanche. and so we found our mountain, we started training, and Kelsey was going to have to complete a 20-mile loop in order for this to work. And it required a new level of myself. This race was something that was very difficult and something that I didn't expect. And as I showed up on race day, I didn't even realize what I was getting into. But here's the lesson I learned. When I got out on the first loop, I went and I did the first 20 miles, and I completed it in 4.5 hours, which is insane for this. If I would have been able to continue at that pace, I almost would have broke the course record. But the problem was that I had ended that loop with 4 rolled ankles. I had gotten lost, and I was very tired. My legs were absolutely shot, and I didn't know what to do. So what I learned from that race is when I showed up on that starting line, I wanted to keep up with the pros. I wanted to follow them, and I wanted to be able to be at that elite level. I thought if they could do it, why not me? But at the same time, I didn't run my race. And so on that second loop, as I started out, I thought that, maybe this was too much. Maybe this wasn't something I could, I bit off more than I could chew. But as I started to push, I realized that I was trying to run someone else's race. And so I had to slow down enough to where I started running mine. And I was really good on the uphills, but I had to slow down on the downhills. And what I realized in that was, in a marriage, you got to play to your strengths. You got to stop running someone else's race. It's very easy to let other people impose their thoughts, their realities, and what they think is best into your marriage, which can cause a lot of chaos and friction and anger that is unnecessary. But when you can play to your strengths and when you can really bring your true self to that, to your marriage, and play to your best and their best, all of a sudden it makes it so much easier for you to come together to common goals and create something amazing. And what I noticed on that race is I was able to finish beating a lot of those people that were ahead of me because I started running my race. And I was able to stay consistent and strong all the way until the finish line. And I finished that race in 29 hours. It's an accomplishment I'll never forget. And it was even better because my wife was by my side. So I finished hurt. And it was an amazing experience. And honestly, I was ready for a little bit of a recovery because putting on that volume and that mileage in that short amount of time took its toll on me for sure, specifically mentally. And so I decided I was going to do a high rocks. Okay, high rocks is a really great functional training. If you don't know what it is, it's basically a run lift combo type workout, and it lasts about an hour to an hour and a half. And I thought it was perfect timing because it would give me a chance for my body to recover, for my legs to get back, and to work out and gain some strength along the way. So we show up, my wife and I, we fly out to Houston, we go to High Rocks, it's March, and we're excited. So this race in particular had some wild moments because it was a lot of unexpected things. We get to the race, okay, and it's me, Kelsey, Summit. So Kelsey, she's also a videographer, and she's trying to get all the footage of the race while watching Summit and cheering for me. It was insane. And also, when we showed up to the race, I had forgot, they give you this sleeve that tracks you while you're out there on the course, and I had forgotten that at the house. And so 20 minutes before I start the race, I had to run back to our apartment and then come back to the building. And it's really tough to navigate because they rent out an event center and the halls get very slim. And so I ran about a whole half mile inside the building after running to my house before the race even started. By the time I got to the starting point, I'm zooming through the starting line. I didn't even get a chance to rest. Okay, I start the race and I'm running along the side, and all of a sudden I look over and I see Kelsey, and she's got Summit in one hand in the car seat, and she's got her camera in the other, trying to get the footage as she navigates this crowded room full of people. It was insane, and I just started laughing so hard because of how much chaos there was. But I realized one thing in that moment. There's many times in your life where it's all about you, right? When you're on the race and completing and doing something for yourself that you're really proud of. But some of those moments aren't for you. It's about the people cheering for you. And it's amazing to see just how much they love and care about you, because a lot of times it's so easy to put so much time and effort into people who just aren't hearing you, and your words and your efforts, they fall on deaf ears. Whereas the effort and the love and the care should be going to those that are there cheering for you, that have been there the whole time waiting for you. And it was amazing to watch her there, putting in all this effort to make sure that it was a successful day and taking care of our son, taking care of me, and making sure everything went good. We finished that High Rocks in 1 hour and 5 minutes. And the biggest lesson that I learned is, rather than screaming for other people to see me, scream for those who are screaming for you, right? Because your lack of commitment, a lot of times when it comes to these races, is a slap in the face to those who believe in you. If I'm not showing up for myself, and if I'm not doing this at an extreme level and going to those depths of myself and really pushing, it's a slap in the face to those who have believed in me and have taken the effort. Kelsey's at home every single day, taking care of the family, taking care of the house, making sure that I am able to go out and pursue my dreams and to be able to do these things that I love. And without showing that gratitude and love to her, it's a waste of time. And that's what matters, right? Like, even on those worst days, I can't come home and think that, I shouldn't bring the energy to them, because they deserve all of it, because they're the ones holding the fort down while we go out and pursue our dreams. Finish High Rocks. Now I have 5 guys from my group about to run 100K. I had to prepare. Okay, I show up to the 100K, got sick the morning of, wasn't able to do it, had to crew them. And from the her 100, Kelsey and I, she wasn't able to finish that pacing with me because of her injury, and we had unfinished business. I had to run 100K, and she needed to finish her race as well. So We went out, finished the 100K, and she was able to pace me the whole last part of that race. And that was one of the most inspiring moments to watch her push through, bring the energy, and be there for me. To have that moment where we crossed that finish line together was amazing, something I'll never forget. So now it's marathon season. We start prepping. I have 20 guys about to run the Utah Valley Marathon, and I was aiming for a sub 3-hour goal. And I was excited. The Utah Valley Marathon is a big deal, and it's one of my favorite races out there. I show up on race day, mission accomplished. I finished in 2 hours and 48 minutes and got all 20 people over that finish line. But the part that stood out the most to me was seeing my wife. She ran a half marathon that day. And seeing her cross that finish line and watching how proud she was of herself and how happy she was to be able to do something hard. And the part that I didn't realize until way after was how many people she helped and cheered on along the way. I realized how much her mom, her sister, our friend Caitlin, and everyone that was there, Kelsey was there supporting them, helping them get over that finish line as well. And so one thing that I've learned is that these races aren't just about you. They never are. If running a marathon is the hardest thing you do, you've missed the point. It's about showing up and letting it bleed to those around you. And you could see how proud everyone was of the accomplishment that they had that day. And that did come home to each of their families. So that day didn't just stop at her, but it made it to everybody around her. Now after this marathon, this race came unexpectedly. I was invited to go do a last man standing on a treadmill, which is 5 miles every hour on the hour. And my coach thought it was a good idea that I went and did it because it was a good way to gauge where I'm at physically, getting ready for the Kodiak 100 that I'm trying to do this October. And I didn't expect to go very far, to be honest. I thought I'd maybe make it 50, 60 miles and then I would be done. But some things aren't chosen. Sometimes pain comes to you and it's your job to show up. And one of the things that I realized is I'm hitting mile 60 on the race and I'm sitting in the chair and I look at my wife and I say, Kelsey, I'm done. I don't think I can go very much further. This might be too hard. And she goes, Brock, I don't care how far you go. Just do your best and you don't die in this chair. You let the treadmill make the decision for you. You don't make the decision. And I thought that was a very powerful principle because often we want to make the decision that we're incapable, that we can't do it just because it's hard. But sometimes creating the resolve that we're going to stay in it and do the best that we can until we're told to get off. And by the end of that race, my legs were shot and I collapsed on the treadmill. I was not able to go another step. And it was amazing to see just what I was made of. And that advice that she gave me is something I'll never forget. And anyway, so fast forward, 3 weeks after that race was a really hard time for me. My hip was hurt. I was very much in kind of a post-race depression. And I couldn't get my body to bounce back. Everything was hard. It took a ton of effort, energy, whether that be showing up for my family, whether that be showing up for myself, my races, my training, everything. It was extremely difficult. You know, I remember one day my wife walks into the room and she says, Brock, what are you doing? She says, you need to show up. This isn't you. And having that person who believes in you more than you believe in yourself is what matters. And I realized that I wasn't showing up in my best self, that they were getting my scraps, and that it's my job to bring the energy that I can be there for them and to give to them when it's hard to give to yourself. And that's why I do these races. And the support, and I can see it grow us as a family. I've never felt more depth in my relationship than in those moments. And I think we can see in each other as we grow together, we start to understand and learn more about one another through hard times than we do in any other way. And I would much rather it be from post-ecstatic growth than post-traumatic growth, because that way we willingly went there together and we learned to get stronger from it. And that's what this is all about. So thank you for coming to this. I hope this was helpful. These are some lessons that I've learned along the way that I've been able to bring back to my family, even on the hardest days. This is how you show up day in and day out. You find a great enough why, you plan challenges, and you go out and you face yourself. And as you do that, they will grow brick upon brick, and you'll slowly become the person that you're proud of. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.